All right, guys, welcome back. Should we say Greatman or Goodman? I don't know. We got Kale in the house.
Yeah.
Great. I say Greatman. It's really Goodman. Whatever.
Yeah. The story on that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, what is the story? I don't know the story.
Well, because I kept getting Instagram copycat, right? You know how they do the Instagram copycats, and I couldn't get Kale Goodman because someone else already had Kale Goodman, so I did Kale.Goodman, and then this guy was like, "Dude, you need to like create a name that doesn't have the period in there because that's how they get people, right?"
Oh yeah.
And you know they get you anyway. Because even after I switched to Kale Greatman, they get you. But he's like, "Dude, you're such a great man. Why don't you just do Kale Greatman? See if that's taken." And it was my buddy Ryan Stuman. We were in Cabo.
Oh, cool.
At his deal, and he's like, "Dude, you're such a great man. Just do Kale Greatman. See if it's available." So I checked, and it was. And anyway, so he gave me that name.
That's way cool.
But now my daughter has her name is on Instagram as Taves Greatman. Her name's Tavia.
So it's passed on.
And yeah, dude, I might just have to legally change it, dude. I'm not married to Goodman. I changed it to
Ruin
Greatman.
the family tree, you know. Just like, well, there's just a little jog in the family tree right here. No, it's cool. And now that I think about it, that's where I thought of it as your Instagram is Greatman. But yeah. Anyway, cool. I was actually, when I first met you, I was confused. Wait, is it Greatman or Goodman? But anyway. Happy to have you.
Dude, stoked to be here, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. You do a lot of these, so I'm not worried about this one at all.
Yeah.
This is a guy that has built several successful businesses. He speaks on stage. He has his own podcast. It's very successful. Just a good dude. Like, and you have a lot of history. You have a lot of just like depth in your story. So I'm excited for this episode and be able to pour into people and just kind of get all that out of you.
Me too, man. I'm excited to be here, share anything I can. I mean, that's been the mission the last, I'd say 7-8 years in business. Cause when you start business, it's very, self-interested, you're just all about like your goals, hitting your targets, getting your money, and so it's been really cool to shift over these last 7-8 years of being like, you know what, like we need this to be value-based. And, luckily we had mentors teach us that. And so, dude, I mean, I definitely don't have it all figured out, but anytime I get someone that's like at a point where I'm like, oh dude, I know what you need to do, or I have some wisdom to offer, it's gratifying, dude. I love giving back. It's been awesome. So
that's way cool. You're a unique guest where we can ask some tougher questions, and not really tougher, but like where other people might see as a tougher question, because there's a lot of people that can make six figures. Probably a lot of people listening to this that make six figures. Maybe there's some that don't. But like, that's not that hard. That's not that difficult. And it's like, you still clap. Like, that's freaking, hey, great job. Like, it's good. But you're well past that, right? Your business is valued at like, what, 8 figures?
Yeah. I mean, we do over 8 figures in revenue. So we've consistently done over 15 million just in our accounting company. And then, we've got some other businesses that do in the multi 7 figures. But I mean, my baby has always been easier accounting, and we've really built it up to, doing in the 8 figures.
Not everybody brings in 8 figures in revenue. And that's kind of my point is like, in your perspective, where you're like, you've been in it, you've grown it, you've done other things too and built other businesses, but this is your baby. This is like your big one.
Yeah.
What makes this one different? What does it take to be able to bring a business from like day one to you're generating 8 figures in rev?
I mean, dude, the network, man, Okay. I mean, it's all been built off relationships, and so, I would say your employees, your computer programmers, your referral partners, your business partners, like it's all relationship based, but our referral partners have been a huge part of that, getting us to the point where we could create our own marketing. We were in the 8 figures before we even started doing our own marketing. So we were really fortunate to make some really great relationships.
Podcast and anything marketing.
Yeah.
So you were 8 figures before you even started your podcast.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, probably right about then is when we started hitting the 8 figures,
Really?
But yeah, we work with a lot of, small business owners. So we typically work with people that are coaches or mentors or in B2B that are helping other business owners. And so, some of them do really small scale stuff, like maybe they're a coach that helps 5 businesses a month, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are really big where they've got a whole academy where they're helping business people get started in business or helping them grow their business. And so we've really figured out with our accounting company, like the crucial points that these entrepreneurs and business owners need accounting services, which is as soon as possible. And so we've created packages at all different levels to help these business owners. And then we go to these referral partners. We're like, hey, you really want to add value to your customer as well as make more money, as well as provide a service that they need, you know, a real triple win, like you should work with us, right? And so it's just a good thing because they make money, we make money, and the customer gets what they need a lot sooner, because one of the biggest problems in accounting or in business is accounting. Like, people figure it out after they have some huge disastrous problem. And so getting ahead of that's crucial, right? And so we have a product that we can do 8 figures with because it's a huge need. People hate it, but they need it, right? So if we can do it for them and take a lot of it off their plate, like it's a no-brainer, right?
But even then, I think, and to be devil's advocate, but in a good way, like I see a lot of accountants. I have a lot of friends that are accountants or work for firms, and I've asked them, dude, why don't you do your own thing? And every single one of them goes, it's tough, man. Like, to get started, to build your clientele, the overhead, the liability insurance, like all this stuff that you have to protect yourself, like. You have to have X amount of clients before you even start to be profitable. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, holy cow. And then I look at y'all's business and I'm like, how did you do it? Yeah. Like, how did you just did you have this huge vision at first, or was it just like, no, let's just get going because maybe it'll work?
Well, I had a huge vision, you know, like, because I came from a house that was torn financially from IRS issues, you know, and then I got a job selling accounting, you know, at an accounting firm, even though I was an accountant. So I learned the game, right? I was like talking to business owners. I'm hearing this, you know, same problems over and over again, which is really just lack of information and knowledge. They want to pay an accountant to do it. Accountant does it for them, but they do it not very good for them.
So you were cold calling people for a company, not yours, but another company, and you were learning.
Yeah, which is how I knew the whole sales model, right?
Yeah.
You know, because we're unique. We're not like your traditional firm. Like you say, these guys don't want to go start their own firm, which is why they're like, I want to make partner. Like, that's their career path. And it's going to take them however many years, 10, 12, 15 years to make partner at a firm before they actually start making like really good money as a professional, you know? And so, we're doing things different, man. We're actually, that's what's cool about the mission statement now. Our mission statement has always been like, hey, we want to make a difference in people's homes, because I had that upbringing, you know, like the IRS took my mom's, you know, my dad's business from him. You know, they levied his bank accounts. My mom went and got a job to help put food on the table. They ended up garnishing her paychecks at Albertsons right here, working at the grocery store. You know, she was just a checker, not making a lot of money. They garnish her paychecks, right? And so, you know, like my dad started working for cash under the table, which, you know, that limits you. And so, man, we went through some really tough years after the IRS issues, and then I dealt with it my entire upbringing. So my mindset growing up, being a super entrepreneurial kid and a young adult, was like, yeah, even though I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a hustler, like, why would anybody want to be a business owner? Like, the IRS can come just take everything from you. Like, you never really own your business, you know? So working at an accounting firm, learning to talk to business owners, hearing the commonalities of problems over and over and over again. Like, I always had a passion for it, and I always wanted to help people with it, you know, but I wanted to be rich too, because I grew up poor, right? So it was about me, and then it was also about helping other people. But between like my business partners and then, you know, how it's evolved now, the mission's much bigger. The mission now is like, hey, we don't just want to help other people and get rich. Like, we want to change the industry, because the accounting system is broken, right? And I used to tell people like, hey, the accounting system's broken. Like, you're not being serviced the way that you should be serviced as an entrepreneur. And it's because accountants suck. They don't know how to run a business. But that's actually not true, right? The reason it's broken is because business owners don't want to create the financial habits to understand the financial game at every level that they end up growing to or want to grow to. And so the accountant is stuck with this person that doesn't want to do their part, but then the client is stuck with this accountant that really doesn't have an entrepreneurial mindset. And so there's this huge disconnect, right? And so that's really what's different about us now. And we don't have to talk about accounting the whole time, but I am passionate about it.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, it's part of you. Yeah.
And so like really the mission is to change the industry by creating systems and processes to help hold the entrepreneurs and business owners accountable to get us what we need so we truly can take it off their plate. And it is challenging, dude. We've gone through a lot of problems. We've had pissed off customers. You know, we've had to make things right.
How many
with people.
customers do you, I mean, you might know this, but how many customers do you have? You know?
We got over 3,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And they're all over the country.
Yeah.
Mostly small business owners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, and you know, we've done the entrepreneur thing where we're like, build, jump and then build your wings as you're, as you're flying or whatever, or you're falling. And, like we've taken on clients we shouldn't have, and we've had our hard learning lessons, but now it's like, we're getting it pretty dialed, man. Like we have a really great thing. We're helping a lot of people. And when we sell this business one day for $500 million, like other accounting firms are gonna be like, what the freak did they do? They're going to start copycatting us. And when they start copycatting us, that's the biggest part of our mission, because the mission is to change the industry. Start getting accounting firms to start servicing these entrepreneurs the way they need to, and getting these entrepreneurs to take on the things that they need to do on their end so they can be serviced. Because even if AI takes over, I mean, dude, you're never going to get rid of the human touch in accounting, bro. Like, you're going to have to understand some things at every level that you play at in order to continue to grow, build your legacy, secure your family, you know, and do the things that entrepreneurs want to do. So,
dude, I love it. And that part of the thing that I love about what you just said is you changed pain into purpose. Like, the passion that everybody hears and sees right now from you comes from pain. Yeah. Like the pain that you felt. And I hear that from like Tony Robbins, right? With his mom and how she beat him and all the abuse that he took. And like, he takes this look of like this outlook of like, I'm grateful for my mom, which just blows me away. Like, how could you do that? And like, bought her a house, like bought her a beach house. Like, here you go, mom. Like, here's this cool house on the beach. Thanks for beating me. But in his heart, in his mind, he really believes like my mom was the person that made me who I am. And that's why I want to help as many people in this world as possible. And I don't want anyone to suffer because of how much I suffered. And yours is similar to Tony Robbins, because like you suffered because of the IRS taking all this stuff from your family. And you're like, I don't want anybody else to feel that pain. Yeah. It's powerful, dude.
Yeah, man. It's
powerful.
It truly is a gift. And it's hard to see it like that. You know, my family's going through a really tough time right now with my dad. He's been battling cancer for a long time, and it looks like really grim right now. And it's just like, you know, all this stuff's coming out in the family right now, you know, just like childhood traumas and stuff like that. And I've had those same talks with my siblings. I'm like, man, look at the gifts though. Like, look at the options we have on how we lead and we you know, raise our families, and like all that's a gift from our dad, man. Like, you know, he made a lot of mistakes, but he also did a lot of great things too. And we get the gift of both sides of that.
It's like that, just the mentality of like life happens for us, right? Instead of to us, and we can always pivot and make it a positive, which is such a cool outlook. I think it's, again, like it's amazing that you've been able to build what you've built, and a lot of people don't ever get there. I mean, you're kind of an albatross in a way, like you're 1% in the world, right? Building a business like that, like it's just not that many.
I don't know, man. I don't ever look at the stats.
I mean,
I don't even know.
No, it's true. Like it's true. Like you think of every person in the world, right? Like if you're like, just to be in the top 1% earners, like I think you only have to make over 400,000. But like you're the 1% of the 1%, like, and there's obviously like Elon Musk and like, but like it's pretty incredible what you've been able to build through that pain that you've transitioned into purpose. Yeah. So it's way cool.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Let's talk about maybe. I want to ask this one. So Trevor, he's your business partner, right? Mm-hmm. He's crazy, but I love him. Yeah. Everybody loves him. Yeah. I think. And he's just got so much energy all the time. Why'd you pick Trevor as your partner? Why is he like the yin to your yang? Or like, how did that all happen? Well, what's that relationship like?
It's crazy because Trevor and I are so different now, you know, but for a long time we were so alike, really? You know? Yeah. But we've both evolved, and we've evolved together, and we've evolved separately in different ways. Right. And so it's funny. Sometimes I'll be like, you know, cause like he's off running like RBO, and I'm off, you know, now like we've kind of taken on these roles. There's one thing I really learned through the process of being so aligned with Trevor. And it's like, and we had this talk just before I went to California a little over a month ago. It's like, dude, look, it's very clear to me, we can't have two visionary leaders on all these projects. Like, you have visions, you're going to want to execute. I have visions, I want to execute. And if we are both this equal, like, owner / leader, right? Like, dude, it's never gonna really go, right? So like, I don't want to get in your way, and I don't want you to get in my way. I have enough humility to be like, hey, you know, like, dude, when I need you for easier accounting stuff, like, and I know like, oh, this is something Trevor's great at, you know, like, dude, I'll like call you in, and we'll like, dude, Trevor, you're great at this. What would you do in this situation? Same thing. Like, I want to support RBO as much as possible. Of course, I'll do the podcast and all that. But as far as like the mastermind and how you want to build that community, I just want to support it. I don't want to lead it, and I want to go lead this over here. Otherwise, we have too many distractions, right? And so, and he agreed, and we're so like he's designing the mastermind how it needs to be to give the best experience based on what he wants to lead, and I'm doing that with Easier Accounting on how we're continuing to restructure things over there. But, so like we're so different now, and it's awesome. Right. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people like about our podcast too, is like, we can have very similar beliefs, but two different perspectives, right? And so there's some contrast. And so anytime you have like a dual host podcast, I think they can be terrible and then they can be really great. And because we have such a contrast between us, but then also very aligned beliefs, right, about the world and entrepreneurship and things like that, it works really well. But man, I didn't really like pick Trevor as a business partner. We worked together in a call center years ago, and dude, we were like those middle school best buds that were just like had the same humor, got each other, laughed at each other all the time, and like I just loved him, right? And then he went down his road. I had a child when I was 18, had not even graduated high school yet, and so I got this job at this call center just to try and fend for my family. He came into the call center industry because he just needed a job. Like we're both like these 18-year-old kids, but he went down his addiction path, and I always cared for him. And then I didn't go down that path because I had a kid to take care of, right? I think my kid saved my life because we were both hellions. But he came back, so I went off and started my own endeavors years after being in the call centers and then working at the accounting firm. I started my own call center, and our first original product with my partner still this day, Jeremy, he wrote this whole course on day trading in the Forex market before it was like what it is now today. We created our own like educational platform, and it was cool, man. Like we created leads, we created sales, we had sales guys. Trev ended up coming to work for us when he moved back from Salt Lake and he was getting clean. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, I would love to have you work here. And so he went from a sales guy to a sales manager. And then we parted ways with one of our other business partners and did a totally different business model. And he was like, hey, I'm going to go with this other guy because I just know this. And I kind of sold him a vision of like, dude, stick with us because we're going to do things different outside this whole, opportunity space that can be kind of a little bit, shady at times, bro. Like we want to do really cool things, really ethical, cool things. And like, I just think you would be great for it. And so Trev was our sales manager when we kicked off this whole new business model. And he was so great at just managing people. Like that's never been my strength. I'm great at selling people my vision. I'm great at getting things off the ground. I'm great at mapping out like how we're going to get leads and how we're going to sell them. And I'm great at those things, at those moves. But like, an employee comes to me and wants an advance on their paycheck. I'm a sucker. I give in to him. Yeah. Trevor holds him accountable. You know what I mean? So like he was just a great sales manager. Well, even back then, dude, I had multiple business ventures. One of them an accounting firm that we scaled to 8 figures. And the whole partnership fell apart at the same time that this other business partnership fell apart. And I was like, dude, I already have all the relationships. Like lead partners, marketing agencies, like we have all these sales guys that want to work for us. They don't want to work for these guys that we found out were embezzling from us. And so it's a really long story, but basically it was like, Trev, why don't we partner up, right? And plus that other guy had us get in the hole. And so Trev's like, well, I can bring like 10 grand in to help cover payroll. And plus we were like 70 grand upside down in credit card debt that we'd been running to keep the lights on while this other partner was just draining us. And so anyway, I was like, well, let's just partner up and rebuild it all. We're in the hole. You've got a little bit of money saved up. Me and Jeremy got a little money saved up. Like, let's just rebuild it now that these partnerships are just imploded, right? And so, we ended up partnering on everything. Because at that time we had 2 businesses. We had our funding company, and then we had our accounting company. And so, it was like, I'll just make you a partner on both, dude. Let's just rebuild them both. And so, that's really cool. I picked him, as a business partner, but like, we were already kind of in mesh. He was our sales manager. It just made sense to rebuild together,
Yeah. No, it's cool because coming from my perspective, like I've had just today, I had somebody ask me to go to lunch, and it's an old friend, known him for 7 years, and he came to me and was like, "Hey, I got this vision. I got this vision for this real estate brokerage, and I want you to be a partner." Like he's already got a brokerage. He's like, "I want you to be an owner of my brokerage, and this is what I want you to do, this, that, and the other." And I'm like flattered, but at the same time, I'm sitting here going, Is this what I want to do? Are these the people that I want to get into business with? And it happens all the time, right? So that's why I wanted to ask, like, hey, what was the process? What was the story? How'd you pick him? Because I think so often people sometimes just like jump into a partnership and they're like, oh shit, like, now I'm stuck. I hear it all the time. I'm stuck because I want to go this direction. They want to go that direction.
Yeah.
Now that we got money that was mixed, and what do we do? And then they like burn it to the ground and they start over and they go their different ways, whatever. It's tough. It's tough to make a partnership work. And you guys have had your tough times.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
have your disagreements.
Yeah. All the
you work
partners,
through
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Because we got other partners too, on our endeavors. But, I don't know. This one's been special though. You know what I mean? Like what I mean when I say I picked Trevor, but I didn't, is like he was the best option at the time. He was a great manager. And that's the thing, is when we partner with people, sometimes we partner out of insecurities. Like, I know I'm not that great at managing people. Trevor's great at managing people. So I can do great what I'm doing great at, and he can do great at what he does great at, and it works great as long as there's equal value.
Yes.
Right. And there was equal value with that. And so a lot of times,
that's so true though, Kale, because if you have somebody in a partnership that has the upper hand in anything, it always doesn't work. You always get screwed over. If you're the one that's like
1000%.
coming into it and they're like, hey, you're the hustler, I'm the knowledge, you're screwed.
Yep.
Like they're just going to work you to death, and like you're just going to sit there on your hands like, what do we do?
Yeah.
I love what you said, where if you have differences but equal in value.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
you can be honest with yourself of like, hey, this is a strength I don't have, but there's the money part. If someone's like, hey, I'll put up the money and do all this, and then you do that, there's gonna be resentments fester eventually when that person's not pulling their weight and they didn't bring in the same amount of like equity or value or capital or whatever, right? And so it is really important. Like, I feel like there's been a lot of really equal value over the years, as far as different strengths and capital, and so we don't really have those resentments ever. But sometimes we have issues based on like, that he's got a different vision, I got a different vision. That's why it worked out so great to be like, hey man, like let's be really honest. Like, what do you want to lead? What do you want to lead? Let's just support each other, but not be in each other's way. Because just like your partner wanting to sell you his vision of a brokerage, it's not going to work, dude. You're too evolved, right? Like, you're like, I'm going to go sell my own vision, get my own team, right?
Yeah.
Get people to buy in on my mission and change their lives and change my life. Like, if Trev came to me right now with like, hey man, I got this vision, he's never going to sell me on it. Yeah. If I went to him and tried to sell him on a vision, he's never going to sell me on it, because like I already have my vision. I'm too evolved, and so like the vision, the visionary leader piece is like the most important piece, especially when you're creating something big, and you can't have two of them, dude. You know what I mean?
Like that.
With us, it was great because like I was always the visionary leader on Easier Accounting, and he was a great leader. But then when we started Real Business Owners to help Easier Accounting, it like turned into its own thing, and he's so great at that, and he's more passionate about that. It's like, dude, I want you to just run with yours and I'll run with mine, and like we'll just still support each other. And so there's no separation, but we're just delegating ourselves and defining that role for each company.
I love it. Yeah. Let's pivot a little bit towards the podcast, because I think this is something that's not up and coming. Podcasts have been around for a long time. Yeah. Social media has been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just in my mind that it's so essential, and I feel like not enough people are doing it or like putting themselves out there. Like they want to hustle, they want to get big, they want to be like and do all these things and do cool things, but they're not getting the attention or maybe the recognition, or they're not putting themselves out there. And it's a great way to do that, is how I see it. Yeah. But so talking about the podcast, you have a successful podcast. Like it's crushing it. Yeah. And you've been at it now for how long?
Over 4 years.
For 250, 60 episodes, something like that?
Yeah. I don't even know. I'd have to go look
crap
it
ton.
up.
Yeah. We were just talking about that before. Like we don't know what episode we're ever on, right? So,
and it's just one a week, So like,
it's always in person.
Yeah.
High quality video, audio. I mean, you got a great guy managing it. Mm-hmm. But I look at that and I go, okay, I think the average, like it's like what, 80% of people in podcasts don't even get past 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, so here's maybe a couple questions, but I'm going to start with this one. If you're an entrepreneur and you're hungry, should you start a podcast and get on social media?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No matter what business you're at, or like, what's your opinion? Like your blue collar business, like
absolutely.
What's your thought?
Most of the guys in our mastermind are blue collar, man. And a lot of them have had this same hesitation because they're like, well, it's just not really a fit for my industry.
It's not my thing. I don't have it. I don't know what.
It might bring your next executive to work for you. It might bring, not just, I think a lot of people look at it like they're just trying to create leads, but it's so much more than that, and that's what I've learned as a networker all these years. It's like, man, every relationship is so valuable, right? And so it could be your next employee, it could be your next executive. Like we have executives now that we've recruited to come and, run Easier Accounting with us. And, it's like your AV guys, you know, like Luke.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, dude, every relationship's so valuable. And so it's like, what are you, like, why are you not putting yourself out there? If it's not on a podcast, why are you not saying yes to stages? Why are you not saying yes to TV interviews? You know, like we say yes to everything. And I'll tell you, that is the number one attribute to the success that we have had. Dude, I was a good sales guy on the phone. I made good money. I supported my family. I made 6 figures selling on the phone. Business owners, right? Multiple companies before I started my own. I was never the best, dude. There was always these silver-tongued devils.
Sure.
They just had they just had it, you know? It was like in them, right? And it's like I had to work really hard to be good on the phone and make a 6-figure income. So I was never that great at sales. I was never that great at like systems and processes. I'm a very good visionary, and I'm willing to just put myself out there no matter what. So I mean, dude, yeah, like, I don't even know how to explain it, man. But like, I was so nervous the first time I got asked to speak on stage. But I remember one of the first companies I worked for, like the way that the speakers got treated, like they were gods, right? Red carpet rolled out for them. They created all the leads for this company I worked for. It's like, man, I want to be a speaker one day, right? And so when I got asked to speak, and then really it was like, hey, will you sponsor our event and we'll let you speak? You know, but I was so nervous, dude. I still get nervous to speak to this day. I'm not the greatest speaker, but I'm always going to say yes, man, because there's so much opportunity. I could create one relationship, you know? And so you might have a video that you put out that only gets 12 views, but it was one view that turned into a magnificent relationship that changed the trajectory for you and that person.
So true.
You know? And so like, it's never a good game plan to not put yourself out there in some form. And nowadays with podcasts, with social media, all the different platforms of social media, stages, events, like you need to be putting yourself out there, getting in front of people.
And what you're saying really is like, if, and I feel the same way, is like, if you're not putting yourself out there, you're doing it, you're selfish. Yeah. You're doing everybody else a disservice because you have value to give them and add just by opening your mouth. And if you're not doing it, then you're selfish. Yeah. Like, and everybody thinks it's the other way around. Yeah. Like you're selfish, or you're prideful, or you're like all about me and I just want to flaunt whatever. No, like that's not what you guys do at all. Like everything that you guys put out is like value. Like here's tips and tricks, and here's my mindset stuff, and here's our routine, and this is how you network, and this is, you know, here's our mastermind so you can listen to these really cool speakers. Like everything's value driven. And if you guys never created that, how are you going to share that value? Yeah, it's true, man. And I think on a higher level, just for a second, if I'm God, which I'm not trying to be sacrilegious or anything like that, but wouldn't I want people to do that? Like good thing, like there's so many bad people. There's so much, like, it's like a spotlight shined on all the bad right now. Wouldn't I want good people to be in front of the camera and on podcasts, delivering things that are helping my children on earth be the best version of themselves? Absolutely. Wouldn't I get behind that as the most powerful being in the universe to help push that? Yeah. And wouldn't I like pave a way for it, like still make it difficult so that they grow, but like help it? Yeah. It's like, absolutely he would. Yeah. Absolutely he would want that to happen.
Absolutely, man. Like, you want to be resourceful. How can you be resourceful if you don't have a lot of resources? And people are the greatest resource we have on planet Earth. Sure. And so wouldn't God want the most, you know, capable, you know, well-intended people to be each other's resources to help the next big company evolve, the next, you know, real estate agent, you know, change his family dynamic, the next, you know, real estate investor, you know, do it the right way and be an influence for everyone else to do it the right way, you know? Yeah. So like what you're saying is absolutely spot on, man. Like, you know, don't worry so much about you. And I learned this lesson in one of my speaking engagements, okay? Because like, I want to be good, right? Like, I want to be good at speaking. I want to get up there and like really inspire people to move and take action in their life. And there's a way to do it. There's obviously levels of talent in doing that. So yeah, I want to strive to be one of the greats, right? If I'm going to do it, I want to do it well, you know, but I did have one where I totally bombed, dude. And I still got business out of it, you know, and that's how it is, right? Like when you do mess up, there's a great learning lesson. You still get business out of it just by putting yourself out of there. But I was so worried because my friends were in the room and there was other big names speaking there, and it was one of the bigger crowds I had spoken to, and I got asked last minute to speak at this one, and they asked me to speak on something new that I've never spoke on before. And so I laid awake all night, no sleep at all. But dude, I'm not gonna say no to that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like average people would say no. They'd be like, nah, I'm not. I gotta prepare. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that, right? Like to me, I'm like, dude, if I fall on my face, there's gonna be a good lesson in it, right? So I said
love
yes,
that, by the
and
way.
I did fall on my face, dude. I went out there. I actually lost my spot, and then I was like going back to try and make a point to make the earlier thing I said make sense, and I botched it, and I did all that, right? And but dude, I realized the next day when I was in Scottsdale and I went down to the pool, and I was just like laying there with a book, and I'd read, and then I'd get lost in thought, and I'm like, oh, it hit me. I was like, I was so worried about what my friends and the other big speakers were gonna think about my talk, and I wanted to do well for them instead of just making it about the audience, right? And so when we talk about like, the selfishness of like building your personal brand and putting yourself out there, it's like, you want to do great, and there's nothing wrong with being selfish of wanting to be great and get a lot out of it. Yeah. But if you can literally make it about them, you're going to have so far few failures in your journey of becoming great at that if you really make it about the audience. Same thing with your social media. If you're like, this one tip is going to help one person, 2 people, 3 people, and then people you don't even know that they're going to spread the word to from there. Like it's a ripple effect, right? That we always hear about the ripple effect, but that's the powerful thing about it. And
it's so powerful. Like you're able to, I mean, I think it all the time, like, okay, well, if you get 2,000 views on your video, it's kind of like a bummer, right? Yeah. But a room of 2,000 people, that's a big room.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, oh, I only got 15,000. This person got 1 million. A room of 15,000 people is a big room. You just spoke on a big stage.
Yeah, it's so true.
Right? And if we put that into perspective, it's like, no, you're touching people's lives. And if you keep at it and just stay consistent, then you can make a big difference. But dude, I love that.
Yeah. What made you do it? What made you start putting yourself out there?
Social media?
Social media. Because, dude, I see your stuff all the time. Like, you're in my algorithm, dude, and I love it. You're doing great, man. And I'm like, thanks. I'm always cheering you on. But, like, what was like, I need to do this, right? Because you could sell homes. You obviously are a capable sales guy. You've got the looks, the talents, the ability. You're doing well already. Like, what made you decide, I'm going to go put myself out there even more?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think it's a lot of what we talked about, just like giving back to people. I think that's where it kind of came from. It started there. And the other part, though, is just like, I have great examples like you guys and others that like Brody and Justin Prince. And these are people that we know, right? But just a lot of other people even that I know, like back east. Cole Taylor, Aaron Nimmo, Coach JC, like, a lot of these people that they all have stuff like this going on. It's like there's a recipe to success. Yeah. There's a reason why they're there. It's just like, if you make banana bread and you leave out the baking soda, it's not going to rise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's that simple in my mind. That's just how my mind works. Like, success leaves clues. Like, I just got to follow the blueprint, right? Yeah. And that's just kind of how my mind works. So after like hey, I want to add value to people, and like, because I mean, it's expensive. Like, it's not that cheap to like try and go after it hard, right? You spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month, and it's like, oh, I hope I'm getting an ROI on this, but you totally do. Yeah. You totally do. And it's not like a direct, but I think that, I wanted to give back to people. I saw that all these other people that have these connections and this network and influence, and I wanted to have that influence to help people. They have this stuff. Yeah. And so I'm like, I never had the, like, oh, don't post that. Like, I look stupid. I'm like, I already know I look stupid. Like, just post it, because in my mind, again, it's just like, I know that there's a pattern to this. I don't care if I look stupid. I know I'm going to get better, just like everybody else did. Yeah. So I just like, I almost knew that before. I was like, just post it. Like, fail faster. Like, just get it out there,
It's wild how, as men and entrepreneurs and women, like, we give each other permission, right? And so we hear about these things like comparison is the thief of joy. True.
Dude, I love that though.
If we're sitting there comparing ourselves in this negative way, but the healthy comparison is like, well, dude, if that guy can do it, I can do it, right? And it's like, by you doing it, you're giving him permission. You're giving the next guy permission.
That's possible.
And that like, hey, it's really not about you being special in any way. It's just a matter of you doing it and being willing to put yourself out there. So
yeah, dude, every single person that I've ever talked to that is now like on the other side of the Shihan's wall of like an influencer is like, yeah, when I started, I got freaking nervous, or I hated it, or like I was stuttering, or we do like 10 take, like they all sucked at it.
yeah.
But it's just reps, like anything else.
Yep.
And so for people listening, I mean, it's for you too. It's like, you want to be an entrepreneur. I hear this all the time. I know Kale does too. It's like, where do I start? How do I get started? What do I talk about? It's like, just start.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask those they're stupid questions. That is a stupid question. Just start. Just do something. I don't care if you talk about your dog, but just develop the habit of doing it every single day and then pivot when you're ready.
Definitely talk about your dog. Dog people, bro. There's like
or
so
cats.
many, right?
Dude, cats. Yeah, cat stories and videos. They go viral all the time.
Just getting back from California, I was like, hey, I need to start a business in the dog world,
industry.
man. Like
dog grooming. Yeah.
Indoor dog park for here, you know, like
for the summer and the winter months that we don't have the winter months, the snow.
People spend money on their dogs, dude.
Dude, here's another question that I thought of that I want to ask you. So I've asked like one other person this. Dan Markham actually is the one I asked this to. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Did you, from an early age, did you know that you were going to be able to create a big business and make a lot of money?
Yeah, I think I did. But I also had a lot of limiting beliefs and self-doubt, right? But like,
take us through that because it's like contradicting almost in a way.
Well,
like,
man.
So what's the part that you like? Yes, and then what were your hurdles?
So, and it's kind of twofold, right? Like, I was an outcast in my neighborhood. Okay, so like I grew up in this neighborhood, like all the cool kids were Bruce Hearst's nephews, and like the Hearst boys and stuff, and like like they were like they just had their cliques, man. I didn't fit into them, right? But I wanted to. I remember wanting to, right? Sure. And so like I was bullied a little bit in that neighborhood growing up, dude. I was the outcast, and so I had this chip on my shoulder. Like I always had something to prove, right? But then I aligned more with the troubled kids because I didn't fit in with the cool kids, right? And so man, like I was only in middle school, man, and I started selling pot. And there's not very many kids to sell pot to in middle school. So the kids that did buy it from me ended up becoming my friends, and we were all troubled teens. We got in trouble for vandalism. We got in trouble for smoking pot, drinking. Like, we were turds, man. Like, we did a lot of dumb stuff. So anyway, I was a troubled kid. I had been in trouble with the law a few times. And then probably the biggest blessing ever was like, man, I had a kid, and I was a high school wrestler. I was really good at that, and I ended up having to quit high school wrestling. I decided to drop out and go get a job and start taking care of this family. And so as I started learning to work, I was always a hard worker. Like, give me a job on the weekends. Some of my dad's buddies in construction, or for my dad directly, like I outwork anybody. And so I always just had this idea that I was going to be wealthy one day, right? But then I also, because of all my trouble with the law and the friends I hung out with, I always had like also the doubt with it.
Don't like align.
Yeah, it's like I had that war going on in me. It's like I'm probably not gonna be anything great. Like I'm a loser with all these guys, right? Selling pot and drinking, right? And then I would ditch my friends and get into wrestling season, and I would have more belief in myself through hard work and discipline. And I'd get a job, and then I'd get recognized for always being a hard worker. Every job I ever had before I was an entrepreneur, I got promoted really quickly because I just outworked everybody. And so I knew there was something special, but I knew that I'd done a lot of things too to develop some belief systems that like I probably wasn't going to be very successful. But even clear back when I was a little kid, though, I remember our home teachers coming over, and they always came to our house because we were like the inactive Mormon family in the neighborhood, another outcast black sheep things. But I remember our home teacher, he asked me when I was real young, like 8 years old, and he was just like, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "I'm going to be a millionaire." And he was like, "All right, but what are you going to do to be a millionaire?" I was like, "Don't know, but I'm going to be a millionaire." So even when I was a little kid, I just knew money solved problems. My parents and my family had money problems, and I knew I wanted a lot of it. And, I did have a couple really cool friends that were like, I remember as a teenager before I became a teen dad, I did have one friend who's really cool. I was like, man, like I caught friends talking behind my back about me being a loser. And I remember opening up to him about it. And he was like, dude, screw him, man. Like, yeah, like, I believe in you. You're going to do something so great, dude. Like, and I remember I was telling him, like, man, I'm going to have the coolest cars, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that. Like, that stuff you dream about when you're young. And he was like, dude, I know you will. I've always felt like that about you. And yeah, I know there's something special about you. And so just having that one person believe in you, like, really meant a lot, man. It really did. I've never forgot it. And that friend ended up, you know, taking his own life years later. And I've never forgotten that about him, man. He's just like one of those friends that really cheered you on. He wasn't a hater, you know, he saw the best in people. And so that's actually been one of my business strategies, you know, and it wasn't like a premeditated strategy, but I will tell you that, dude, I've always like believed in people, you know, and I've been burned a lot for that, but it's also had some of my most, you know, greatest successes from it as well. Like, there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't have believed in Trevor just becoming a recovering addict, but I was like, dude, I saw something great in him, you know, and I saw something great in a lot of the people that have come through our ecosystem where I'm like, even still to this day, man, Trevor's like, man, he told me not too long ago, he's like, man, like, I didn't know about that guy. Like, but you saw something in him, and he just freaking crushed it for our mastermind community, gave him the best marketing nuggets. I'm like, yeah, man, I worked with that guy for months. He's a genius, you know? And like, I just see things in people, and just, I'm willing to believe in them. I'm willing to get screwed, you know, if I believe in somebody. And so
I think that's a gift, man. I think that's a gift, that there's like this energy that comes out of you that people feel, and like pulls out that best version of themselves. I remember, this is a quick story. I remember I was baseball and you were wrestling, and I loved baseball. And as a sophomore, Snow Canyon always had a good baseball team. Like, we were always good. And as a sophomore, I started varsity. And I remember we were playing against some team up north, and the guys on the mounds throwing 90 plus, like 90, low 90s, 92, 90. I'm a sophomore. I'm like, that's freaking hard, you know? So it was a close game. It was a tight game. And like, I just was so freaking nervous, dude. It was my turn to be up to bat, and I'm over there, and I just looked up to my coach so much. His name's Reed Seacrest. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I do.
So he played in the pros. I just looked up to him, and I was just so grateful to be there on the field playing varsity. And I just called timeout, and I like walked over to him, and I just remember I was a sophomore, just this little kid, and I looked up at him, and I was like, "What?" And I was like, didn't know what to say. I don't know why I'm talking to you right now. And he's like, hey, dude, you can do it. Like, it's okay. And I was like, and the only thing I asked him was, do you really think I can do it? And he's like, dude, I know you can freaking do it. Just go up there and freaking heck away. And, you know, and just said his little thing. Yeah, of course. I know you can do it. You're freaking the best one out here on the field. Oh, this is all BS, but like, he talked me up. I go up and I freaking hit one off the wall as a sophomore. Like, the biggest hit we scored a run. Like, it was just, and like, dude, I could feel it. Like, this energy, I was just like, I was so pumped up because he believed in me. And I've remembered that experience, kind of like you and your friend, which is a great story. Just like, if you believe in people, like, you can kind of bring the best out of them. It's pretty cool.
Man. And it's reciprocal, man. Like, people still sometimes believe in me, and I'm like having my self-doubt, you know? Even now, right? It's like you have all this proof of accomplishment, but it's like you still get those limiting beliefs and those thoughts, and like there's a lot of people that show up and believe in me as well. And so, you know, to me, it's like it's just a good strategy. Just believe in people, you know, align yourself with good people, you know. And if people let you down, it's like whatever, man. I honestly hope people, if I believe in someone, they don't work out, and even if they do some harm, it's like, man, I just hope that they get led to some, you know, point or position in their life where they get to pivot in the right direction, and that belief that you had in them helped them in some way, right? And so, yeah, man, it's just, I don't know, like I've just had the ability to kind of see things in people, and I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for people. Right?
But I think, Kale, that, you know, I think everybody has it, and you're just able to see it. It's not like. It's not like, oh, that person has it and I can see it, but that person doesn't. It's like, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm off, but I kind of believe that everybody is divine in some way. Like, they have skills and talents, and like sometimes they just need to have it pulled out of them. And maybe it's that you're just looking at them as like, no, that's what it is. That's yours, and you can see that, and maybe they can't. And then you try and pull it out of them, because I just want to make sure that everybody listening to this is like, oh yeah, well, they have it. Kale sees it in them, but like, I'm different. Like, I've never been successful. Bull crap. Like, you're the same. Like, you have it in you to do the same freaking thing.
It is, man.
There's nothing special about anyone other than some people take action, and then they hang out with good people, They network, they put themselves out there, and just these little things.
Yep.
And then it starts to blow up.
The downside of that is like, you can't force people to change, you know, and sometimes you want to, you know, but personal change is such a personal thing, man. Like people just aren't ready until they're ready. When they're ready on their terms to make a change, you know, it's like they will. Right. And so you can't force it. You can't force change in people, you know, so you can believe in people and even people we've had to let go, like that aren't on our team anymore, or maybe it was a business relationship where we got burned. It's like, you know, it's like, man, like I just want to send those people off with, you know, they're not in my life anymore, but I want to send them off with like knowing like, dude, you got potential, man. Like when you find it, you're gonna do great things, you know, but you know, it is a deeply personal thing to create change in yourself, and someone else wanting to change someone else. It's just, that just doesn't work. And sometimes we get caught up in that where we're like, I just want to change them. Right. Like we had this one sales guy was like, dude, you're so good. You don't have to lie to sell. Why do you keep lying? Right. And it's like, he just wasn't ready to change, man. So he's not on our team anymore, but I hope to hell, like he's found his thing that he sells, he believes in, and he doesn't have to lie to do it anymore, and he's making a great living for him and his family, you know. But you know,
I love it.
Yeah.
Here's another question that I thought of to ask you just now is, okay, so you're going through high school and you feel like you're kind of like hanging out with the troubled kids, and you're like, you know, you're kind of doing the same things, right? And you're smoking and you're drinking and you're doing all this stuff. Like in my mind, I feel like we all in some way, shape or form go through those dips, like those peaks and valleys,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Or else you're not human to me.
Yeah.
And I probably don't want to be your friend anyway. Because you're unrelatable to me, because that's not me. That's not my life. But you know, I hear a lot of stories, and you probably do too, of people that are stuck in addiction or stuck in their own, that I want to call it just like that routine, but like that rut.
Yeah.
That rut is a good word. And they can't seem to get out of that rut. They keep falling back in the rut.
Yeah.
Their wheel just keeps going back in the rut. They pop out for a second, and they fall back in. Like, how did you do it? Like, but not just how, like, if you're speaking to somebody right now on camera, like what would you say to that person that may be listening to this right now that's struggling with something, but has big dreams, just struggling mentally? Like, I know I have something in me that's great, like Kale. I know I could be a millionaire, but I'm struggling with this addiction.
Yeah.
How do you help that person? Like, what do you need?
Man, so many layers to that, right? Like, because there's areas in my life I still struggle, right? Like, you know, physical fitness,
which I love,
right?
that,
like I've been so fit, and then I fall off, and then I get fit again, and I fall off. I've yo-yoed forever, right? And so when I know I'm doing my best is when I know that I'm intentional about, you know, working towards what I really want. And so it really takes you being honest with yourself, and it really takes embracing the suck on things, because everything we want, like we talked about to start, like pain, right?
Yeah.
Tony Robbins created so much out of his pain. I've created so much out of my pain. You know, like we have to really be honest with ourselves that no matter what we want in our life, there's going to be hard work involved, right? And I feel like we chase the comforts, like, oh, when I get making $250,000 a year, then I can relax, or I can go on more vacations, or when I got $1 million in the bank, I'm going to feel so secure. Yeah. Did you get $1 million in the bank and you still have money problems, and you get $1 million in the bank and you still feel fear? And it's like, you know, at the end of the day, like if you can create a mindset around like, dude, my entire life, my time on this earth is going to be hard work. Why don't I just embrace it, learn to enjoy it, love it, you know, like you're going to get what you want. It's just simple as that. Right. And so, it's going to take routines, and it's going to take all the things that we hear about as entrepreneurs, but really it's a mindset of like, just knowing like, dude, I gotta love. The hard work's going to be there no matter what. It's like choose your hard thing. You've heard that one too, right? Like
for sure.
Like for me, like I yo-yoed with my physical fitness, and it's like, well, dude, is it really that hard to be consistent and disciplined with your fitness and your health? it's going to be a lot harder having freaking diabetes than when your legs cut off or your feet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like choose your heart kind of a thing, right? So I think a lot about that kind of stuff, you know? And so, I've made a lot of adjustments in my health recently, man. Like all the research I've done is, you know, on microbiomes and the artificial sweeteners and how much inflammation in your body from fried foods. And like that stuff's all been really helpful because it's like, okay, I'm cutting that stuff out. And it's like been a very convicted decision in order to do that. And it's really easy for me to do that once I have the knowledge. But you got to get out of learning mode and you got to get in doing mode. And so, you know, like, so learning helps because once you have the data that makes complete sense, making the decisions really not that hard, you know, but you just got to start doing, you know? So, you know, so there's a lot of layers to that, man, in all different areas, right? We all have our struggles. We all have our weaknesses. We all have our strengths, you know, but at the end of the day, when we can really just be like, you know what, my time on earth's going to have hard parts and it's going to have great parts and it's all going to be hard work. So why don't I just freaking make the choice to enjoy it and do it? Like, you know, it's all uphill from there, but it's good. It's a good uphill.
I love that answer. So again, the question was like, if somebody's struggling with addiction or having problems or whatever, and they want to do big things, like how do they get there? And what I'm hearing back is like, dude, give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Like embrace it. Like everybody's got suck in their life, and yours might be alcohol. This person might be drugs. It might be whatever. But like, I think that a lot of times what pulls people back into it is the shame and the guilt.
Totally.
And that low, because everybody's seeking some happiness or love. We all want it. Yeah. And so dopamine is the robber, right? And so when we want the drug or we want the alcohol, it's this depletion in dopamine or some feel good chemical in our brain, right?
Totally.
And so we go to that because our brain sits and tells us, hey, you're not feeling good right now. Like you're not feeling right. You're not feeling stable. Like homeostasis is not happening right now. Yep. What was the last thing that it was the alcohol. Yeah. Okay, go drink because it'll make you feel better. Hey, go drink. And it just pokes you and pokes you and pokes you. Yeah. And then you go drink and it solves it for a second, but then you're just like, I just did it again. And then you go through this cycle. Yeah. But your whole point is like, dude, just embrace the suck. Yeah. Because if it's not that, it's going to be something else probably.
Well, when you can do that, when you can embrace the suck, it's like, then you'll start doing it because it does suck, right? You're like, oh, dude, like I actually like doing hard things now. It gives you confidence, man. And then you're seeking validation less. And, you know, when you're seeking validation less in your life, like all these things that numb us and take us away from what's really productive and beautiful in life, like become far less important to us, you know? So...
Yeah, dude, I love it. I haven't talked about this a lot on camera, not very often at all, actually, and it's because it's one that a lot of people struggle with, but a lot of people don't like to talk about. And for me, it was porn. Yeah. And a lot of people would look at me and be like, Eric, really? What? I'm like, dude, 100% of guys look at porn or have seen porn. Like, don't, you know? So I've gotten this healthy balance of it, but does it serve me? No. Did it serve me? No. And I knew that. And I've talked a little bit about like my explosion about 4 or 5 years ago. And I had that propane tank accident. A lot of you have heard of. If not, go listen to some of the other episodes. I talk about it. But like I was flying in the helicopter and I had this like almost out of body experience of like, hey, if you were to die right now, like, would you be happy with your life? Yeah. And it was like, no. But the reason it was no is because I would fall back. And my wife knew about it the whole time. Like I was super honest with my wife. I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel like I get this low, and then like once a month or every 3 months or every 6 months, I would go back to porn. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know why. I haven't struggled with this since I was a kid. Yeah. Like my parents caught me just like every teenage boy because it just happens. And I'm like, babe, I love you. I really do. And it was just so hard because I like love my wife. But I like, why am I going here? So I went to counseling. Yeah. It was the best thing I ever did because the counselor starts talking to me about like, dude, like you're totally normal, number one. Give yourself some grace. Yeah. And it's just a dopamine low. Like when you go and look at porn, it's just because you're not doing a good job of being emotionally aware of how you're feeling. Yeah. So you're either feeling like stress, you're bored, you're lonely, you're angry, you're tired, but you got to figure out what that is for you, dude. Yeah. It's true. And I'm like, yeah, dudes are really bad at being emotionally like intelligent. And I'm not any different.
It's so true.
So I started journaling about it and working on it and trying, and I would fail along the way. And he would be like, dude, just because you relapse doesn't mean you go back to zero. Like, look how far you've come.
Yeah.
And then I got better, and I got better, and I got better, and our marriage got better and better and better. And it's like, then it becomes almost like a game. Like, all right, like, how long can I go? You know, and then you just get better. And so for those listening, dude, I know there's somebody listening to this that has struggles with porn.
Totally.
And there's a lot of people that maybe look at porn as like, hey, yeah, you know, it's like not that big of a deal. My personal opinion, it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't serve you, then why have it in your life?
Dude, honestly, man, I've been in part of a lot of men's groups, and I mean, dude, obviously I'd be lying if I never had a problem with porn, but it was that was one of the reasons I was ridiculed in the neighborhood, right? Like, I found my dad's Playboys and I distributed them through the neighborhood. And then parents were like, you're not allowed to hang out with that kid, right? Like, that was actually one of the things, bro. Like, I had some trauma over like pornography in our home growing up too, on top of the money and the IRS stuff. So as an adult, like, like even in my first marriage, like we had problems with it, but it's like, man, it's just been so many years. I haven't even seen it in so many years, man. And it's like, for me, it was because like I had such a bad experience with it. I didn't want to associate with it, but I'm in all these men's groups, and it's like such a tough thing for a lot of men. And it's actually like studies coming out. And I read about one of these studies in a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. Super good
I love
book.
that.
If guys have you read it?
I have like halfway through it.
Okay, so guys that are struggling with maybe validation in women and pornography is such a great book, right? And in these men's groups I've been a part of, it's like, man, it's a really deep rooted thing, and a lot of the studies show how it actually creates. It's one of the biggest links in men being unproductive in their life because of the numbing that they do specifically with pornography. So there's so many addictions out there, from food to porn to, drugs to all kinds of things,
got one.
gaming, like all these things. And it's like, it's all taking us away from our greatness, Right. And so I went through a really hard time just this last year, and me and my wife went through some hard things because we all look for validation in certain things, and some things happened that hit my marriage really hard. And it was like, man, my really good friend, Corey McNeil, he was like, bro, I'm telling you, like, the devil works on the ones that, he wants to take out for a reason, because they're meant to do great things. And it's like, people might hear that, but it actually meant something to me at that time. I was like, you know what, man, it's right. I'm letting him beat me at this war. Like, same thing with the pornography, man. It's like just giving into it, and that little justification. It's like, it's taking you away from your greatness, man. Like, but you do got to give yourself grace. You mess up, you got to get back on the horse.
You can't give up.
You can't stay down, because you read the book Outwitting the Devil. That's what it's all about. It's like, man, 100%. once you're like, you accept that you're a pile. And this is just what your life is. He's got you by the balls. You're gonna be controlled your whole life by 100%. These vices. And so I don't want to be that, man. Like, I really, 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 what fuels me more than anything is like, I want my family to be like, dude, the wisdom dad left us, the baton he handed to us, the security that he built with us, this legacy, like, that means more to me than anything. That's what drives me at the end of the day. And so I recognize, like, not having these vices or being controlled by him or messing up but getting back on the horse so that I'm not controlled by him forever is so important for that end goal of, like, when I leave this earth, I leave it better than I found it.
And they will, dude. 100%. They will. Yeah. And we all go through the ups and downs. And I think when we mess up, we think about, what are my kids going to think? Or what are my wife going to think? Or like, oh, I screwed up the family, or this, that, and the other. And it's like, dude, we're all in this together. Like, we all struggle. We all have like hormones, and we have different like just attractions to different things. And it could be Netflix. Like, but we that whole like give grace, it's like, how fast can you pop up?
Yeah.
If you have a relapse in whatever it is, how fast can you pop back?
Absolutely, man.
And
Absolutely.
I think a big problem, I'm going to say this on camera for a second. I think a big problem, and just because we're in Utah, there's a big LDS culture thing. I'm going to call it a cultural thing. Is there's this cultural thing around pornography or drinking or drugs or whatever, that if you do it, then you're toast. Like, don't do it. And they put such this barrier around it. It's like, people don't do this. Like, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it does.
Yeah.
And when it does happen, then you feel like, well, crap, I'm like the only one that struggles with this, because my whole life I've been indoctrinated in this idea that nobody looks at porn.
Yeah.
I'm the only one. Like, and here's the other thing, like, why do I like it? Why does it feel good? It's like, but I don't like it, and I feel shame, and I feel guilt, but why am I drawn to it? And why do I keep going there? And it's like, and you're so confused, and you don't talk to anybody, and you hide it, and it gets worse.
So true.
We have to let go of that shame and guilt. God knows it's out there. He knows it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. He knows that they know how our brains work, and they're pushing it in front of everybody, and they got it on our phones, and they're just a huge funnel that's leading to porn.
Yeah.
And for somebody that struggles with porn, you got like, can you imagine being a heroin addict and having it in your pocket at all times, and be like, hey, resist that thing, like don't pull out that heroin, and don't that's what pornography is to some people. It's on their phone.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We have to have a healthy relationship with all of it.
Yeah, it's true, man.
With all of it,
and and now more than ever, man. Like, especially if you're married, right? It's like, and you're a family man. It's like having good values within your marriage, within your family, is so important. Because if it's true, right, that the devil wants to destroy, like, people really looked up to me and my wife a lot. Like, I got told all the time, like, oh man, couples goals, like, you guys are like what we want, and it was like, it felt good for a long time, and then we hit our hard times, right? So my friend telling me, like, dude, like, the devil wants to take you guys out. That's where he's gonna make the biggest difference. People look up to you guys. They look up to your marriage. They look up to your family. It's like, oh man, that's why it hit me hard. So if you're married and you've got a family, it's like, there is no bigger difference you can make in the world, especially now with all the craziness going on, from gender dysphoria to everything, right? It's like, dude, like, be a light in the world, like, have the courage to shine, like, be the example, and just know, like, you know what, the devil is going to try and take you out, and it's up to you. It's up to you to, take control of those vices, always get back on the horse, and never subdue to it, because if you subdue to it, then you're just, now you're not a part of the different, you're not a difference maker anymore, So anyway, I want to be a difference maker, man. Like, that's important to me. And, it's so important to have couples stay together and build good families with good values, literally more than ever. So like, this is a really good conversation for people in entrepreneurship or anything. It's just like, man, we all want to be productive in our life, but like, dude, our families are so important to just, make sure that we go out there and shine as bright as we can in this world that's just so crazy.
It's usually why we do what we do in entrepreneurship, right? It's to provide a better life.
Yeah.
But then it becomes like its own addiction, and it like becomes a game, and we're competitive as guys, and we like to build things, and like you're building a business, and then you kind of like, oh shoot, like I should probably like be home at 5 and like spend time with my wife and take her on a date and tell her I love her and give her a kiss, and we should probably be intimate, and like all these things that are so important. We should probably have prayers as a family, we should probably teach them about like good morals and principles, and all those things are important.
So important.
All those things are important. We got to do a good job at upholding that, because they're going to remember.
Yeah.
Like, they may not remember anything that was said, but they'll remember that it was done. Yeah. That we had it. You know what I'm saying?
And it's going to carry weight into their families and the type of, women and men that they are in their families. And so,
and who they look for in a spouse and all that good stuff. Dude, this was good. This was a good conversation. This was a good podcast episode. Yeah. We kind of went everywhere, dude.
We did.
Like business
accounting.
Accounting, your life, and we kind of
vices.
Like vices and addictions, and it's awesome. Family. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Dude, absolutely, man. And if I could say anything to wrap it up, it's like we kind of hit on it. Just like, people are the greatest commodity out there. Being resourceful, being a connector, that's like the most important part, right? People, we're in this world where people are just getting more and more and more like automate. It's like the human touch is always going to be the most valuable thing. Being a connector, being resourceful is always going to be the most valuable thing. And so, you want to magnify, you want to attract people to you. And, the best thing to do, and this is a great conversation that we had today to kind of hit on this, is like, you just have to become a person of accountability, man. No one loves a victim. There's no greater people repellent than being, a victim, a blamer,
so true.
Not taking any sort of ownership in your life. And so, that's a big message I like to end on. And I always like to put out there anytime I'm on a podcast, is like, question yourself, like, look in the mirror, like, make sure that you really are always working on like being this person of accountability, because that's going to attract a lot more to you, and that's going to give you the ability to do a lot more and be more resourceful and bring more abundance into your life and others.
Love it.
So,
dude, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I will echo that, and we'll leave it at that. That's a great place to end.
Yeah. Well, talking about the vices and all that, dude, I wanted to end with that.
With a positive,
and all that, right?
Uplift it at the end. Yeah, I appreciate that. Where do people find you? How do they connect with you if they want to?
I mean, I'm rebuilding my personal website. It's just kalegoodman.com. Like, you want to buy my books or something like that, like, it's on there. It's just Amazon. It links to the Amazon listing, stuff like that. But like, honestly, real business owners, man, like at real business owners, you can DM us. Me and Trev both answer
Instagram
people in there.
Yeah.
And then realbusinessowners.com, easieraccounting.com. Like, those are all the spots where you can reach us. And like, we're so open to anybody, man. It's like, people reach out and they're like, hey man, I really need a call. I'm struggling, whatever. Hey, I need to know if you know something about this. Like, do we always answer? We jump on the phone with people. Like, just hit us up, man. We would really want to help. So
yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I remember when I first met you guys and I was like, hey, can I come in the office? I just want to ask you. Like, yeah, come on up, man. I wanted to ask you about podcasts and like how to get this started, and you guys helped me out a ton. So,
well, to us, dude, we're nowhere near where we want to be, right? So sometimes these guys making 6 figures are like, like, you'll never talk to us. You guys are so far along. It's like, we're not stars, dude. Like, come talk to us, man. Yeah. We don't have bodyguards, So.
Which people love, dude. And it just, that's amazing. It's an amazing quality that both you and Trevor have.
Yeah.
So keep it up.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Thanks for coming. Okay, guys, thanks for listening this far. If you like this episode and you feel like it had value that it can give to other people, please share it. Maybe just go on your Instagram, take a screenshot. Hey, this was a killer episode. Would love you to do that. Put a link in there where people can find us, because I really feel like this episode as well, and a lot of the other episodes have a lot of value for people, and I know this one definitely did. So thanks for coming on. Yeah. And we'll end it right there. See you guys next time.